In a week where, as Adam Pacitti said in the previous news video, the greatest wrestling game of chicken ever is taking place, welcome to Cultaholic. I thought we'd be talking about WrestleMania being cancelled by now, Jim.
Oh, I thought so as well. Well, no, actually, we've got a few days, haven't we, until that ultimate deadline. Oh. Sounds like a wrestling show. The ultimate deadline.
Ultimate deadline.
Before we begin, congratulations to Tom, who took part in his first wrestling match this past week.
Oh, gosh, I did, didn't I?
You did, that was a real thing that happened, yeah.
I didn't even get too badly hurt. Try harder next time, HT Drake. Here's some news. The original plan for Triple H on SmackDown has been revealed. A Raw Superstar has moved brand, and a Japanese wrestling legend is to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Find out who in a little bit. SmackDown from the Performance Center was an absolute treat, wasn't it?
It was something. It was one of the most surreal wrestling shows I've ever seen. But a big part of that was Triple H on commentary, who decided he's just like that uncle who doesn't care anymore.
He's gonna shoot, brother.
Yeah.
All the shooting. Triple H was meant to play a small role on SmackDown, but ended up being SmackDown, didn't he?
Essentially, yeah. Various different skits that he took part in. He had the camera at one point on Michael Cole. He filled in his goatee or his soul patch with a bit of pen. And also, him and Mojo decided to make Cole get hyped, and they jostled him, for lack of a better term. But apparently, that wasn't originally the plan, according to Fightful Select. So it seems as though Triple H was supposed to be like one of a few guest commentators on the course of the show who would all fill in next to Michael Cole. But according to Fightful Select, Triple H was so positively received that they made the call mid-show to have him just appear on the whole thing.
See, I remember watching the first part of the show and hearing Triple H on commentary, giving some throwbacks to classic Vince McMahon, going, what a maneuver, and all this. And then he shook hands with Michael Cole and went away, and I thought, oh, that's a shame. I quite enjoyed him doing commentary. And then when I dipped back in later on, there he was, back again with the ill behaviour.
He was having a great time, and we all were as well, I suppose.
It's funny how, like, I think if anybody else was to do the sort of stuff that Triple H was doing, we'd be on here now raging about, like, you're burying the talent and da-da-da-da-da. But for some reason in that environment, in that world, it was like, you know what, it's fine. It's Michael Cole as well, so.
It was, Michael Cole got positively received as well, because there was a bit more of a loose feel. You could tell they didn't have someone in their ear screaming at them what to do, I suppose. And I think that was for the betterment of the show.
It kind of felt like when you get to play, when you're at school and you get to playtime, it's raining outside, so they make you stay in and play board games. There's sort of a chaotic nature to it. It kind of felt a bit like they were playing board games a little bit, didn't they?
I can kind of see that.
If you enjoyed it, like we did, more of it tonight.
Yeah, Raw's going to be, well, we know that unless plans change, there's going to be several massive superstars on there. Austin, Edge, are they going to come out and just... I can't imagine Stone Cold cutting a promo to an empty arena. It's going to be bizarre.
Oh, The Undertaker doing a contract signing tonight as well. That eerie entrance to nobody. Gosh, I think it's going to be quite the night tonight to have those big stars in front of nobody, and I reckon it'll do record numbers again. Because SmackDown did 2.5 million on Friday night. Some of the biggest numbers it's had in ages. And nobody was there.
I can't wait. I'm genuinely very excited.
Meanwhile, a Monday Night Raw star has made a little cheeky move over to SmackDown. You mentioned him briefly just then.
I did. It's the most low-key of moves. It's not low-key. It's the most low-key of moves I can remember in a while across brands. So it seems as though Mojo Rawley is now on SmackDown. He did appear on SmackDown in a brief segment alongside Triple H and Michael Cole to confirm that his best friend and former NFL all-time great Rob Gronkowski has signed a contract with WWE. And it seems like, well, according to PW Insider, it seems like he may have moved over there to be with his friend.
Mojo and Gronk going for the tag titles. You love to see it.
I'm going to pitch something here. I think,
It's not what you think will happen.
It's what I want to happen. I think that Gronk will... I feel like he might be turned on by Mojo. Not on. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, it's an empty arena. We're all locked in. Nights are long and dull.
I feel like Gronk, if we can be professional for a second,
absolutely
might turn on Mojo Rawley. because we've seen in the past Ronda was trained a lot by Natalya and had a match against Natalya because it's someone that she's familiar with. I'm assuming that Mojo's had a hand in Gronk's development. I don't know, but I think that because it's someone he knows well and trusts, maybe that'll be one of his first opponents. But I said this to Adam Pacitti and he said maybe there'll be a tag team first, as you seem to imply there. So I think that at some point Mojo will, not only has he subtly moved brands, he's also not a heel anymore.
All that stuff they were doing with Mojo. This is like the third hard reboot of Mojo. Basically, Mojo is the Spider-Man movies of wrestling.
Yes.
In the sense that in a short space of time, they've restarted him 3 times. They did the whole stuff with the weird face paint in the mirror, going, "Oh, I'm not very good." and then you had, "Oh, here I am. I'm tough. Here's Riddick Moss, my mate." And then I've lost, and now it's like, "Hey, I'm excited.
I'm hype again.
I've got a new friend."
Zack Ryder, take that.
Oh.
Poor Zack, feel bad for him.
Oh, Roger's got more TV time than Zack.
I like Zack.
Yeah.
Get Zack back on the. Let's have Zack versus Gronk for WrestleMania.
Zack versus Gronk, caveman pro wrestling. Sounds like they'd be cavemen.
Wait, I'm confused. Yeah.
Zack and Gronk do sound like
Zack
caveman
and
names.
Gronk.
Zack versus Gronk.
Mojo, not as much.
Mojo, no caveman. It's a shameful thing, lobster head.
Too many limes.
Too many limes.
This story concerns my new best friend, Sheamus.
Oh, you and Shamo, mate, getting on brilliantly in the pool.
I was more nervous in that interview than I've been in quite a few interviews.
Why?
Because we went all that way for one interview and I thought, well, if I mess this up, then it's a waste of a train journey. But no, it seemed to go well. He was a really nice guy, actually. I think he warmed up as the interview went on, and then afterwards we had a bit of a laugh.
Did you? Did you have a daft laugh?
A little bit, but then he had to do a conference call, so we had to be like, all right, bye now, see you later.
I was going to say, have you saying you went for a beer down Penny Lane with Sheamus?
Didn't go for a Guinness with Sheamus, but he was a nice man, and he's been doing more media appearances, this time in Ireland, where he was talking about things like the upcoming WrestleMania 36 event and more. But I think the most topical thing he said, and one of the most intriguing things he said, was with regards to part-time champions in WWE, where he said, I'm always skeptical about champions who just pop up once in a blue moon, like once every 6 months or once every year. I think it's important to have your champion on every week. That's how I grew up watching WWE. That's how I see it.
It's very true.
I agree.
To be fair, like you think of like what would you say was the era that you grew up watching wrestling?
I first started watching wrestling in 2000, so The Rock was there every week, Triple H was there, or everyone who was the top WWF champion at the time, they were there every week.
Exactly.
Sometimes twice a week on Raw and SmackDown because there was no brand split.
I think throughout most major childhood eras for wrestling, there was always the champion. Imagine if Stone Cold Steve Austin, during the height of the Attitude Era, only appeared on Raw like every month.
Yeah, it'd be weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it wouldn't. The reason that wrestling sort of got as much momentum as it did because Steve Austin was the weekly figurehead and he was the guy that you built the show around. So the idea that we've got 2 champions right now who are very much as Sheamus describes, of popping up once in a blue moon.
Right.
It's tough.
And I think that's why it's especially pertinent, because as you mentioned, we're kind of used to Brock Lesnar having one of the big belts and just going away for a bit. But but we've always had usually the World Heavyweight Championship at the time to fall back on, or or whichever one he didn't hold. We had that to kind of fall back on. Now that both the top titles are taken by part-time guys, it has really became very obvious.
And I feel like what's frustrated me as a wrestling fan is that when the big belts are away, you kind of hope that the other belts would get more prominence.
Right.
Like you'd hope that, like, okay, with the Universal title off screen on Raw years ago, the IC title should have been more prominent, or the US title should have been more prominent. It certainly was when like John Cena held it, because it was very much a weekly occurrence for him to defend it and stuff like that. But I don't get that feel that those belts have kind of stepped up in the absence.
I mean, Andrade is still feuding with sort of Humberto Carrillo with the US title and that sort of thing, but there seems to be a gap. There's like them, and then there's the main event scene with Lesnar, who's never there. But there's Andrade is not the second top thing on the show, is he? There's all at the minute it seems like the Rollins and Owens storyline, which has closed Raw for the past like 3 weeks or something, and it does seem like they're spinning their wheels and trying to fill time. And likewise, yes, we've just seen a new IC champion in Sami Zayn, but again, I can't see them pushing him to sort of a near main event level. It's quite a strange thing.
It really is. But on the plus side, both champions will be present at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Providing the WrestleMania is a thing. All right, we're going to mention the pandemic now. I know. But we have to, because it's affecting the wrestles, isn't it, Jack?
It's affected various promotions. We've just got a little update of various shows that have been affected in some way over the past weekend that we're going to talk about now. So Impact has had to move its lockdown show, which was scheduled for March 28th at Sinclair College in Windsor, Ontario. They've had to move that because the college is closing. The venue's closing. We've got to move it.
It'd be quite difficult to have the show on with the doors locked.
No word really on whether it's being postponed or cancelled or moved to a different venue or anything like that yet, but all we know is that the original plans for lockdown have been scrapped. House of Hardcore has announced that its 11th of April show at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia and the Icons of Wrestling convention also that afternoon have also been postponed, which is a shame. And the Australian government has placed a 14-day mandatory self-isolation period for anyone, including citizens, coming into the country. Unless that restriction is dropped by June, that will have a major effect on the World Series Wrestling Tour, as well as tours from international wrestlers, because if you're coming into the country, regardless if you're Australian and you've been outside of the country, you're coming back, you do have to go through a period of self-isolation. For example, the Japanese wrestler Yu was set to work this weekend, but couldn't get into the country.
Shazza McKenzie is a fine wrestler from Australia.
Yes.
Her story at the moment is really catching fire online, because Shazza had a whole load of shows booked for WrestleMania month.
Yeah.
So she's flying to America. She was on Desert Island Graps talking about it all that while ago, really excited to really make an impact in America around about this time. She's pretty much as soon as she landed in America, all of this stuff with the pandemic started truly kicking off. And one by one, her shows have been cancelled or pulled or rescheduled or postponed. And then she's found out over the weekend that if and when she flies home, she's going to be in quarantine for 2 weeks as well. So it's a really, really tough time, not just for promotions, but for individuals as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
This was I really feel, as we've said on previous on previous news videos and previous podcasts, support indie wrestlers at this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is a real tough time. If this had happened any other time in the year, I don't think it would have been bad. But like, this is happening during like the pinnacle point of the wrestling calendar year.
WrestleMania season.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
When all these companies who don't normally go outside of their garden are flying the other side of the world to do shows and betting the farm on these big shows during WrestleMania week, during the Edinburgh Fringe Festival of Wrestling.
Yeah.
And they're not happening, and so much is being affected, the industry as a whole. So where you can, support wrestling, get on demands and pivot shares and buy merch where you can, and support indie wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Support indie wrestling.
We'll get through it. It'll be all right.
And finalement, this was not a surprise to us, but it's a wonderful thing to see. We have confirmation that Jushin Thunder Liger, the greatest junior heavyweight wrestler of all time, is being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's not a surprise, as you mentioned, because we've seen huge Japanese stars who've never really had that much to do with the WWE, such as Antonio Inoki and Tatsumi Fujinami. We've seen them go into the Hall of Fame. It only makes sense that just after he's retired, Jushin Thunder Liger, as you say, one of the greatest of all time, is going straight in there. And yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And no one can really argue with that.
Not at all. It's funny to think that this guy who started wrestling like in the mid 80s, but didn't really find his feet as Jushin Liger until sort of the late 80s, based on an anime character.
Yes,
I understand. But he's only really had he's had some matches in the US, like one match for NXT.
Tyler Breeze, yeah.
Tyler Breeze, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
But I love that WWE are honouring him, putting him in the Hall of Fame. Who would you have induct him? That's the question.
There's so many people that potentially could. You could have Rey Mysterio do it. He was the first one that sprang to mind for me in a WWE-centric sort of view, because he's a very prominent WWE superstar who's surely been very influenced by Jushin Thunder Liger. He's influenced like any junior heavyweight or cruiserweight style wrestler from his peak years forward. Really, he's had a kind of a massive impact on the world of wrestling. So there could be so many people. Rey Mysterio was the first one that popped into my head, but you could say anyone.
Yeah, whatever, and obviously that depends on the shape that the Hall of Fame ceremony will take.
Yes, of course.
In the run-up to it, but regardless of how it all pans out, Jushin Thunder Liger going into the WWE Hall of Fame, class move. I'm very excited by this. It's a good Hall of Fame class this year.
Very strong, yeah,
British
absolutely.
Bulldog, Jushin Liger.
NWO. Yeah, the Bellas. You could say they've not had as big of an in-ring impact as some of these wrestlers we're talking about. But in terms of WWE's global brand, I guess, the Bellas are huge stars. So,
Our boy Bulldog.
Our boy the Bulldog.
Our boy Bulldog's going in. I'm trying to think I think basically the three hot rumours that were doing the rounds have now all been confirmed. Am I right?
I think so. Bulldog,
Bellas.
Yes.
They've all been confirmed.
I think so.
So everything, who knows? Again, depending on what shape the Hall of Fame takes this year. I don't know. I'd like to think it might go back to the old days.
Oh.
I don't know whether you remember, like the early Hall of Fames were basically held in like a Hilton hotel conference.
No, I don't remember.
Where like there was like a little gala dinner and a couple of speakers.
Are these the ones from like before, like the 90s? Like
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't remember that. The first ones I remember are like 2004 onwards.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I'm an old boy. I remember when they were held in like in conference rooms. Let's go back to that. Let's do it.
Okay, let's see how it goes.
Have a great Monday.